Hi, I'm Orietta Verdugo. I am the author of a new book called Shattering the STEM Ceiling, Conquering Obstacles and Advancing as a Woman in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. So I was born and raised in Arizona. I grew up in small farming and mining towns. My dad worked for copper mines for over 40 years as an equipment technician. My mom stayed home with the 5 kids. And so growing up in small towns, it was, it was a community of, everybody, your neighbors. And so my upbringing was a very humble upbringing. My love for engineering started as a little girl for the love of math. One time, I remember that there was a station where there was a money station and there was coins. And I was sitting there playing with the coins. And I got really excited because I discovered something about math, that I can use math in very practical ways. In playing with those coins, I go to my teacher, Mrs. Miller, and I say, Mrs. Miller, did you know that you can make $1 with 4 quarters, 10 dimes, or 20 nickels? And she was like, yes, Orietta, and there's other ways. So I went to Mrs. Miller, she asked me to go back. And I start looking and it's like, oh, Mrs. Miller, guess what? It's 2 quarters and 5 dimes. And she was like, Orietta, there's more. And that afternoon, I thought I solved like the 293 permutations to make $1 with coins. And so that's when my curiosity and that sparked the love of math for me. I knew math was gonna be something that I did. I didn't know what I would do with math. And when I got to college, I was undecided. I thought that you had 4 years to pick out a degree. My counselor told me very quickly that I need to pick a degree within the next few months. And I had different things I considered. I wanted to do astronomy, business, math, engineering, and even film. And what I ended up picking was industrial engineering because it combined my love for math, my curiosity of engineering, and also business. And so I have an undergrad degree in industrial engineering from Arizona State University. I also have a master's in engineering systems from Massachusetts Institute of Technology, as well as an MBA from MIT. And really now it's about how do we share this message about progression for Latinas in STEM. When I was in high school, my math teacher suggested I attend a math and science program at ASU. I had to drive 20 minutes to the nearest bigger town than where I lived to take this test. And they gave me a thick book of math problems. And they said, solve as many math problems as you can. I had just finished my sophomore year in high school. And I sat there just solving problems as much as I can until the time rang. When I got accepted into the program, and when my mom took me to the school to drop me off because you spent the night at ASU, I got into the longest line. I was just sitting there waiting, and then someone says, hey, Orietta, you're in the wrong line. You tested into calculus, which was the highest math class that the school taught in the summer for high school students. And so that was a moment where I realized, how do I say it? I think that was a moment where I realized I was smart or smarter. See, being from a small town, I was always the top of the class. But when your class is 150 students, it's kind of relative, right? And I always looked at cities with 5,000 students in it. I was like, I don't think I can compete with that because I'm from this little town. But that summer, I realized that there was only like 25 of us students in calculus. And it was actually a very small number of students who were at like the same math level as me. And I think that's what I realized. So I was never told I couldn't do it because I was a girl, but I always assumed that because I was from a small town, I wasn't capable. So in the United States, about 50% of the population is women. The latest census, about 20% are Latinos. In engineering specifically, today, 26% of engineers who graduate are women. So about 1 in 4 engineers who graduate is a woman. But in the workforce, only 13% are women. And if I break that down, only 3% are Latinas in engineering. The biggest hurdle, or I would say the biggest thing that I had to overcome, was entering this male-dominated field. So I was always a tomboy. I grew up as a tomboy. I played sports. In engineering, there wasn't too many women, so you kind of got used to that. What was very different when I joined the workforce was that it wasn't just that I was around more males, but I was around males who were twice my age or much more older. And so that really changed my perspective. And I had to get comfortable with this space that I was in. Because not only am I learning something new in this field, but now how do I approach the men? How can I build a relationship with someone that is completely different from me? My first job, I left Arizona to go to South Carolina. In South Carolina, there's I think less than 3% Latinos in South Carolina. So it's a huge culture shock, especially coming from Arizona. And so I had to get used to the conversations and the culture of that state. And, and most of the barriers weren't so much barriers that people said to me, as much as me figuring out how to overcome and how to become comfortable and saying, hey, this is a space where I belong. And I could also make a difference here. I think one of the superpowers that we have as Latinas is our language. And for those who are bilingual, how do we embrace Spanish in the workforce? When I was growing up, I always put bilingual in my applications for elementary and high school, and I was always tested for ESL, even though I was the top of my class and I was in honors English. And it made me feel like I shouldn't be speaking Spanish, or always kind of segregated those who spoke Spanish in school and they were treated differently. But the thing is, in the workforce, that's one of the things that I've embraced the most. I went to go study in Mexico. I've worked in Mexico. I've worked in Spain. And not only that, I've been able to do business in South America and Central America because of my language. And in today's world, as it turns out, it's a global workforce. And knowing a second language and embracing knowing a second or multiple languages, it really helps you elevates you as a professional. The opportunities that you have, whether you're staying in the States or you're moving to other places, but also the customers and the partners that you can reach because of that. A lot of things that I've been the first. I was the first person from my high school to go to MIT, for example. The first in a lot of things that I've done. And the first person in my family to publish a book. But I think the things that make me the most proud is when people come to me and say, hey, Orietta, I heard your story, or I saw you speak, or I read about you, and that inspired me to be better or to do something, or it made me realize that it's possible for me to accomplish that as well. And that is, I don't know, I think that's what makes me the most proud. My first job, my first job was at a gas turbine factory, and I love factories. I love watching things getting built. And when I stepped into this factory, I was like, one day I want to run a factory and manage a factory. I want to help more people succeed in STEM. And how do I reach other people? And the way I thought about doing that was to write a book. And now I'm an author. So my message to young kids is to keep dreaming. And that, like, your dreams, you don't know when they're gonna happen. They might not happen that month or that year, but eventually the stars will align and your dream will happen. So keep sharing your dreams with others. Keep talking about what you want to be, and keep on your journey to that dream.